day, sir. Good day, classmates. I am Limbal Abogado Bautista, and we are the group of LGBTQ+. We all know that LGBTQ+ is widely known as one of the controversy and most topic issue of this country and all over the world. Gender is consists of a man and woman, a boy and a girl, or male and female. In our world, these people exist, mostly judged and criticized simply because of their sexuality. They do exist in the world of dark reality and hurtful discrimination from people who haven't experienced being torn between showing their real self from everyone and keeping it for the sake of their image and reputation. Their existence is widely known as a sinful one. They are summoned by the people who are in the same shoes as them, but it in contrast to those who are weak, vulnerable, and courage in their hearts to speak up and to fight for their rights to be equal with the others who are living a normal life than them. And queers, it is called as the LGBT community, consisted of lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgenders, queers, and it's also known as the third gender. Most of them are showing off discreetly to others to hide their real selves, afraid of being humiliated, and hesitance and pride are evident in their eyes. But some of them are proud of themselves, and it is very good thing. Definition of terms. What is LGBTQ? LGBTQ is defined as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning acronym. Such terms are used to identify the sexual orientation of gender identity. So what is L in LGBTQ? L is for lesbian, a woman who is physical, romantic, and or emotional attractive as to other that women in lasting. G is for gay, the adjective used to identify individual with enduring physical, romantic, and or emotional attractiveness to same-sex individuals. Bisexual, B, a person with the ability to establish lasting physical, romantic, or emotional attractions to those of the same sex or to those of another sex. T is for transsexual or transgender, an umbrella term for individuals whose gender identity and or gender expression varies from what is generally associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. And Q is for queer or questioning, an adjective used by some people whose sexual orientation is not exclusively heterosexual, especially the younger people. And that is the stand of LGBTQ+. Kinds and methods. The LGBT community represent different kind of flag that represent who they are. We have the gay pride which is the mother flag of all gender pride. It consists different colors that has its own meaning and symbol. The red is for the life, the orange is for healing, the yellow is for new ideas, the green for prosperity, blue is for serenity, violet is for spirit, black or brown is for people of color, white, blue, and pink is for the trans community. Aside from the gay pride, we have the asexual flag, the bisexual flag, genderqueer flag, intersex flag, the lesbian flag, the non-binary flag, the pansexual flag, the Philadelphia Pride, the Pride Progress, the Straight Ally, the Transgender Flag, and the Two Spirit Flag.
What would you do if no one cared for you? Imagine, if you're honest about who you are, you could be killed. That's always been the reality for many LGBT folks since the birth of America. Many people lived in secret, fearful that someone would discover their truth. That was a motivation for Walt Whitman to write poetry that would beckon gay people to safe places where they could build community. Yet most LGBT people were still forced to live in isolation. Then Carl Maria Kurtbeny gave us the term homosexual and the power to identify. And writers like Alice Dunbar Nelson showed up. As a biracial, bisexual woman, her courage in the face of prejudice allowed more stories of LGBT people to be told. Like that of the Two-Spirit Zuni Native American Wewa who impressed President Grover Cleveland, but after her truth was fully known, she was villainized. Over time, LGBT people congregated in safe spaces, and we began to see more representation in art, books, and theater. America soon called women to fight, and a contingent of lesbians formed in the Women's Army Corps, which became a place where lesbian women could be themselves. After the war, many women refused to go back to traditional gender norms. All of this paved the way for the homophile era. For the first time, we saw people publicly demanding livable communities and LGBT equality. Later, scientific studies proved that homosexuality was not a psychiatric disorder that needed to be cured, and put an end to the practice of placing LGBT people in mental asylums. While there was a growing restlessness among gender nonconformists, one by one, LGBT folks rose up to defend themselves, rioting in places like donut shops, cafeterias, and bars. Their courage sprung from Magnus Hirschfeld's safe haven for LGBT folks, which inspired Henry Gerber to form the Society for Human Rights. This motivated countless LGBT people to create change.
So this is the history of LGBTQ+. What the colors of the pride flag mean. The pride flag colors each hold a different meaning, and each color represents an important value of the LGBTQ+ community. Let's take a look at what each of the rainbow colors represents. First, red. The red in the flag represents life. This makes sense if you think about how blood is red and how often blood is thought of as a vital force of the body. Red also represents passion among many cultures, and passion is ideally where life originates from. Second, orange. Orange represents healing, as a color orange is believed to be a fun and celebratory color. Fun and celebration are both healing activities. Third, yellow. If you guessed that yellow represented sunlight, you would be correct. The color yellow functions as the flag regent and bright center. The color yellow is said to stimulate new ideas and thoughts. Fourth, green. There's a lot of green in nature, which is what this color on the original pride flag is meant for convey. Nature is a healing place, and the color green is associated with the prosperity and growth. Fifth, indigo. The indigo or blue in the original pride flag was for serenity. Little is more important than the ability to feel calm and serene. Blue is known as a relaxing color that soothes the soul. The color blue is often used for nighttime consumer products to represent bedtime and calmness. And last, violet. The last color, violet or purple, represents spirit. Purple is often thought of as a regal, royal color that on its own denotes pride. Like blue, purple is considered a calming color, but rather than being associated Only with calm, the color purple connects us to the spiritual realm. The history of LGBTQ plus foreign. The reason is because it coincides with the National Coming Out Day on October 11, as well as honors the first marches in Washington for LGBTQ plus rights that were in October of 1979 and 1987. The United States didn't officially recognize October as LGBTQ plus History Month until 1994. Rodney Wilson, the first openly gay public school teacher in Missouri, came up with the idea. Wilson was a founder of the first coordinating committee and helped choose October as the month for our history, along with early members of Kevin Jennings from the Gay, Lesbian and Straight Education Network, and others. History of the Pride Flag. The original pride flag was created in the 1970s by gay activist Gilbert Baker, friend of Harvey Milk, the first openly gay man to be elected to public office in California. Baker used 8 colors and corresponding meaning: hot pink for sexuality, red for life, orange for healing, yellow for the sun, green for nature, indigo for harmony, and violet for spirit. The Pride March was celebrated in the month of June. The history of LGBTQ plus local. The first account of women and gender-crossing men playing major roles in the Philippine society was the Babaylan, a priestess who was a bounty of knowledge and spirituality. The Babaylan even had the power to take charge of the barangay in the absence of the dati. There were some Babaylan who were male called Asog, who were free to have homosexual relations without societal judgment. The Asog were not cross-dressers. However, they were gender crossers as they were granted the same spiritual recognition as the female Babaylan. The Asog led the revolts against the oppression of the Spanish colonial period with various incantations to boost the revolt's strength. During the 300-year Spanish colonization of the Philippines, a change in ideology was imminent. From the indigenous matriarchy, the Spanish introduced the patriarchy and the machismo concept, which made gender crossing a ridiculed practice. It was not long until even effeminate men were also looked down upon, developing regional vernacular for what the Tagalog called bakla. Gay man also meant confused and cowardly. The American colonization period further reinforced of Western conceptualization of gender and sexuality, committing it in formal education.
It's you and me. And if only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap out places. We're running up that road.
Arguments supporting. Schools should be safe places for everyone, but in the Philippines, students who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender or LGBT, too often that their schooling experience is marred by bullying, discrimination, lack of access to LGBT-related information, and in some cases, physical sexual assault. These abuses can cause deep and lasting harm and curtail student right to education protected under Philippine and international law. In recent years, lawmakers and school administrators in the Philippines have recognized that bullying of LGBT youth is a serious problem and designed interventions to address In 2012, the Department of Education DepEd, which oversees primary and secondary school, enacted a child protection policy designed to address bullying and discrimination in the schools, including the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. The following year, Congress passed the Anti-Bullying Law of 2013, with implementing rules and regulations that enumerate sexual orientation and gender identity as prohibited ground for bullying and harassment. The adoption of these policies sends us a strong signal that bullying and discrimination are unacceptable and should not be tolerated in educational institutions.
Discrimination of the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. While some legislators and state agencies have proven supportive of LGBT rights, there are also growing instances of discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion of sexual orientation and gender identities issues from various state branches and departments. Local government units from different cities all over the Philippines have been proactive in passing and filing city ordinance banning LGBT discrimination in Quezon City, Anti-Discrimination in Employment was enacted in 2004. LGBT-friendly provisions are supplemented in the Quezon City Gender and Development Ordinance. Albay Province and Bacolod City 10 pass Anti-Discrimination Ordinance. Angeles City not only passed anti-discrimination legislation but created a gay right desk as well. 12 in Cebu City, while art anti-discrimination ordinance is being delivered, 13 a city resolution was filed urgent the Department of Interior of Local Government, DILG, to issue memorandum to all government agencies to include the LGBT sector in their Gender and Development GAD program in the House of Representative Raymond Palatin of the Kabataan Party List Flying House. Resolution number 133 week 6 to investigate prejudicial discriminatory and unjust practice and policies against LGBT students implemented tolerated in school. 15 while be partnering which the Department of Education, DepEd, and other government agencies to explore the inclusions of a comprehensive gender curriculum on basic, the secondary education, and the vocational and technical school to incorporate discussion and issue of LGBT. Person 16. In May of 2012, the Department of Education issues DepEd Order Number 40 or the DepEd Child Protecting Policy to guarantee the protection of children in school from any form of violence, abuse, of exploitation, regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity. Despite the passage of this government action addressing LGBT violence and discrimination, the state has failed to address the overwhelming amount the hate crime and murder of LGBT individuals in the Philippines. For example, the report of Filipino state submitted to this committee from Philippines Fourth Periodic Review did not comfort the gravity and gruesomeness of LGBT killings that have occurred in recent years within state, nor the fact that the number of hate crime is continually increasing.
The Philippine of City Mandaluyong has approved an ordinance to protect the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from discrimination, the latest in the slew of local laws passed across the country. Mandaluyong Anti-Discrimination Ordinance prohibits such discriminatory acts as denying of or limiting employment-related access, denying access to public programs or services, refusing admission, expelling or dismissing a person from an educational institution due to their SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity expression. This also prohibits verbal or written abuse, unjust detention, involuntary confinement, denying access to the facilities, and illegalized formation of groups that incite SOGI-related discrimination. The passage of these local ordinances are important because LGBT Filipinos, while widely accepted in Philippine society, still face discrimination. This is particularly true for LGBT students as well as LGBT people living with HIV. many of whom suffer even more from mistreatment by families, employers, or colleges. While the ordinance does not specifically address HIV-related discrimination, most HIV infection in the Philippines occur among LGBT people, particularly men who have sex with men. The Philippines has the fastest growing HIV pandemic in the Asia Pacific region, and a third of all new HIV infections are recorded in Metro Manila, which is composed of 16 towns and cities including Mandaluyong. The weight of local ordinances stands in stark contrast of the Philippine legislature, which has not passed similar and anti-discrimination legislation, while the lower house passed a version of anti-LGBT discrimination bill in September. The Senate version of faced stiff opposite from religious groups and conservative senators. The recently appointed Senate President Senator Vincent Soto III, a religious conservative supported by the Catholic Church because of his outspoken opposition to LGBT equality legislation, is likely to strongly oppose any legislation aimed to protect the rights of LGBT people. LGBT rights advocates believe that strategy to ban social discrimination and could offset at the local level the absence of such legislation at the national level. But those laws are also a challenge to the Philippine government to take the initiative to pass national anti-LGBT discrimination legislation to ensure that all Filipinos enjoy the rights of guaranteed them under the country constitution and human rights law.
Trending news foreign. One of the things I would say for football fans is, please do be respectful of the host nation. They're trying to ensure that people can be themselves and enjoy the football. And I think with a little bit of a flex and compromise at both ends, it can be safe, secure, and exciting World Cup. Qatar has said all are welcome at the World Cup, including LGBTQ fans, but that visitors should respect the country's conservative culture, in which public displays of affection even among heterosexual is taboo. Qatar law calls for a prison sentence of 1 to 2 years for adults convicted of consensual gay or lesbian sex. European Soccer Federations last month announced their intention for captains to wear an armband with a rainbow heart design as part of an anti-discrimination campaign during international matches. Downing Street quickly rejected Cleaver's language, saying that people should not have to compromise who they are. Opposite parties are criticized Cleaver's comments, with SNP Westminster Deputy Leader Kristen Oswald tweeting Foreign Secretary Sims in essence to be advising people travel to the World Cup in Qatar to show some respect and not to be gay. This is abhorrent. Labor Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell said, "This is shockingly thrown there from James Clevery. Sport should be open to all. Many fans will feel they can't attend this tournament to cheer on their team because of Qatar's record on human, workers, and LGBTQ plus rights." British Foreign Secretary tells gay World Cup fans heading to Qatar to be respectful. World October 26, 2022 at 6:55 p.m. London AP British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly faced criticism Wednesday after telling gay soccer fans heading to the World Cup in Qatar that they should show some compromise and be respectful of the host nation. The comments were quickly disavowed by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's office, while a senior figure in the opposition Labour Party called them shockingly tone deaf. Homosexual activity is criminalized in Qatar, and Clevery was asked about the issue in the wake of British activist Peter Tatchell being questioned by police after holding a one-man protest in front of Qatar's Nation Museum, holding up a sign accusing the country of jailing member of the LGBTQ community. I have spoken to the Qatar authorities in the past about gay football fans going to watch the World Cup and how they will treat our fans and international fans. Clevery told the LBC Radio they want to make sure that football fans are safe, secure, and enjoy themselves. And they know that the means they are going to have to make some compromises in terms of what is an Islamic country with a very difficult set of cultural norms to our own. Trending news local. As the Philippines engaging the LGBTQ plus community, one of best trending news that shocked the whole Philippines is when Geraldine Batista Roman is a Filipina journalist and politician serving as the representative of Bataan's first district since 2016. She is the first transgender person elected to the Congress of the Philippines. The Soju Bill. 19 senators signed committee report recommending Soju-C equality bills. Manila, Philippines, the Senate Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality panel filed its report recommending the passage of the sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and sex characteristics of SOGI-SC equality bill to the tune of 19 signatures out of 24 senators. Senator Riza Hontiveros said, "I am ecstatic that 19 of us colleagues in the Senate have come together to support the SOGI bill. In just one day, we persuaded them to sign the committee report. I am even more encouraged that in this Congress, the Soju bill will finally be passed." Hontiveros said in a statement, "It's 2022 already. Our laws should reflect the reality of our culture."
How do we make laws in Congress? Let me explain to you in 1 minute. It all starts with a good idea. Susulat po tayo ng tinatawag nating panukalang batas. Ifa-file po natin sa Kongreso at ibabato nila sa corresponding committee kung saan pag-uusapan ng mga committee members ang nilalaman ng panukalang batas. Pagbobotohan po ito at kapag naprubahan po ito ng komite ay ibabato na po ito for second reading sa plenaryo. Doon po, lahat ng congressman pag-uusapan ang batas na ito at pagbobotohan muli. Once approved on second reading, magkakaroon po ng final vote sa third reading. At pag pumasa po ito sa third reading, ay babato na rin po ito sa Senado. Hindi po sapat sa Kongreso lang. Dapat meron ding approval ng ating mga senador. Once approved by the senators, ito po ay pipirmahan at magiging batas ng ating Pangulo. That's how you make a law.
In the foreign country, profiles provide information on the human rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, or LGBT, people in 132 countries around the world. They are derived in part from section of Human Rights or Watch 2020. Word report that relate to the rights of LGBT people. We have supplemented the word report information with additional country profiles for all other countries that criminalize consensual same-sexual conduct or gender expression. And for some other countries in which notable events related to LGBT rights took place in recent years, where Human Rights Watch has undertaken specific work on intersex issues, this has been included. LGBT youth are more likely than their heterosexual peers to experience negative health and life outcomes. It is critical for the parent, guardian, and other family members of LGBT youth to have access to the resources they need to ensure their LGBT children are protected and supported. If you've ever wondered you're gay, lesbian, or bisexual, you're not alone. Many teens ask themselves this question, and here are ways to find some answer. For parents and caregivers, finding out your son and daughter is gay, lesbian, or bisexual can present challenges. Learn more about how to support him.
About LGBTQ is I just wanted to express that everyone has a right to a decent life. People who identify as LGBTQ frequently feel inferior to those who appear more normal than they do. In the world we live in, we all have equal importance. This may seem counterintuitive because male and female can already achieve equilibrium. But the LGBTQ community has had a significant impact of the world and has excelled widely across the country with their exceptional and extraordinary talents. Without the third gender, the world would not form a perfect equilibrium. We have untapped talents, therefore we can do more about it. We all own so much more than we realize, and it would be better to show it off and than to keep it to ourselves. And I am one of them as a member of the LGBTQ. LGBT issues have long been a concern in this country, especially in terms of equality. The LGBT community does not appear to have the equality that they require. In reality, they are discriminated against for being unique because we are all made in God's likeness and image. The Bible actually says that we should all love and respect one another. So I've come to a conclusion that if we hate the community of the LGBT community, we also reject God's likeness and image to be part of single Christ-centered community. We must accept one another.
The LGBTQ plus community has a significant social influence because of their talent and strong personalities. They are the ones who provide color to every corner of the planet. They make us happy. My friend and I have many of them, and we must treat them equally and accept them as members of this community.
For me, it's time to accept them completely because they deserve it. They exist in our world and we must regard them as human beings who deserve to be treated equally with others.
Man and woman, a boy and a girl, or a male or female, make up gender. These people indeed exist in our culture, but they are typically discriminated against the stigmatized for being homosexual. They do exist in the world of harsh reality and stinging prejudice from those who have not had to choose between keeping their true self to themselves for the sake of their reputation and image or displaying them to everyone. Their existence is commonly acknowledged to be sinful. They are called upon by the by those who are in similar circumstance to them. But in contrast to those who lack the strength, fortitude, and a courage to speak up, show yourself to the community and don't hesitant to share your identity.
There is nothing wrong with being a member of LGBTQ community. God created them similarly to you. We should acknowledge them rather than treat them different than others. They exist in the world and should be treated as such. It's time to accept them fully because they deserve it.
The LGBTQ plus group should already be accepted in our culture. They deserve respect and attention, and we should treat them horribly just because they exist. A comedian makes us laugh, an artist inspires us to be beautiful, a teacher serves as an educator, a host makes every event successful and vibrant. And there are many more professions. Let's grant them freedom and acceptance. Stand of other religion, where major religions stands of same-sex marriage. Sanctions same-sex marriage. Conservative Jewish movement, Episcopal Church, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, Presbyterian Church in USA, Reformed Jewish movement, Society of French Quaker, Unitarian Universalist Association of Churches, United Church of Christ, prohibits same-sex marriage, American Baptist Churches, Assemblies of God, Church of Jesus Christ and of Latter-day Saints Mormon, Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, National Baptist Conventions, Orthodox Jewish Movement, Roman Catholic Church, Southern Baptist Convention, United Methodist Church. Now clear position. Buddhism, Hinduism. Religious beliefs do not justify discrimination. Christian moral stand. LGBTQ equality on sexual orientation and gender identity. The Catechism of Catholic Church, a text which contains dogmas and teaching of the Church, names homosexual act as intrinsically immoral and contrary to the natural law, and names homosexual tendencies as objectively disordered, while the Catholic Church does not consider homosexual orientation sinful and of itself. It does have a very negative attitude toward it. The 1986 letter states, although the particular inclination of the homosexual person is not a sin, it is a more or less strong tendency ordered toward an intrinsic moral evil, and thus the inclination itself must be seen as an objective disorder. The fact that Catholicism does not consider the inclination sinful is very different from more fundamentalist Christian churches. It is one of the reasons that the Catholic Church has not officially approved or prepared therapy. The Catechism further states that homosexual persons are called to chastity. However, the doctrine also specifies that such person must be accepted with respect and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. The experience of LGBTQ parishioners can vary widely across dioceses and parishes. Many Catholic communities reach out to LGBTQ members to offer as full of a welcome as possible within the limits of a church policy what does not approve in same-sex relationship, even committed ones. Other parishes have denied membership to LGBTQ individuals and families. There have also been recent instances of LGBTQ employees in the United States being dismissed from Catholic schools and parishes following the celebration of a same-sex couple's marriage. There is no official policy regarding transgender individuals in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, though doctrinal teaching clearly equate birth anatomy with gender. The Vatican's Extraordinary Synod convened, convened in October 2014 debate several issues related to LGBTQ inclusion but did not address questions regarding transgender church members. However, the experience of transgender Catholics varies depending on their communities. Tia Pesando, a transgender woman, recently made news when she was accepted to a Carmelite Sisters novitiate in Canada. In September 2015, the Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, responsible for enforcing Catholic doctrine, did not permit a transgender man in Spain to serve as a godfather, effectively barring transgender Catholics from serving a baptismal sponsors. The statement include the result in evident that this person does not possess in requisite and leading a life conform to the faith and to the position of godfather. Therefore, is not able to admit to the position of godmother nor godfather. One should not see this is discrimination, but only the recognition of the on an objective absence of the requisites that their nature are necessary to assume that ecclesial responsibility of being a godparent.
Summary main points of this topic. LGBTQ plus as a part of the community. The LGBTQ plus classifications and the representation. LGBTQ plus dominated the politics. LGBTQ plus saw the bill to fight for equality and acceptance. LGBTQ as being worldwide and national. The LGBTQ plus comments and stand of every religion. And last, the views of a Christian.